Okay, welcome back, everybody. Sorry for the delay. Please keep in mind when you're not speaking to turn off your microphone. And otherwise, you can put up your hand and we will definitely get to you. So we will continue on with the presentation. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'll just share. And I apologize again if there's some repetition for you.
No, it's all good.
Okay, so again, really we're here just to try and give an update to the public generally about where we are with treaty negotiations with Comox and our planned public engagement over the summer leading up to a closing joint BC Canada offer to Comox, probably October, November. So I'll start with some quotes. Reconciliation is not for wimps. Our future and the well-being of our children rests with the kind of relationships we build today. That's so true. So reconciliation, what is that? It's about building a new relationship with Indigenous peoples. It's which honors the past, mutual respect. It's built on a new fiscal relationship, and it's a commitment to action. And it's not just BC and Canada, the First Nations. There's an opportunity for everyone to get involved. And when I say that, I mean also local governments, school boards, nonprofits, just the general public can play a role in reconciliation. So in terms of BC and Canada's commitment to reconciliation, Canada has demonstrated that through the enactment of Bill C-15, which is the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. And we did a similar thing in terms of Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act in 2019. The purpose of that act is to align provincial laws with UNDRIPs. It also opens up the opportunity to enter into shared decision-making agreement with Indigenous governing bodies. And that will require some modifications to legislation to enable that. But that's a really big step forward. But I think the real commitment is to negotiate long-term agreements. So that focuses on Indigenous self-determination and economic independence. So all of this as a partnership to improve the quality of life. Now, treaties are probably the most comprehensive form of reconciliation. And as I mentioned earlier, since 1993, we only have 4 treaties with 8 nations. So these agreements take a really long time. And a lot of the stumbling blocks previously was the federal and provincial government's approach to treaties. Before it was a final agreement. So you put everything you could get in because you weren't going to open it up again. It was going to be done. It was more like a divorce than it was a partnership. And we are moving forward in a different way now. We're looking at a partnership that allows us to revisit the treaty in 10 years to incorporate new rights as they're proven in court. The recognition of rights is a very different approach. The old number treaties were cede, release, and surrender. Even the modern treaties that were previously were, First Nations would argue, were a form of extinguishment. How we're doing it now is something we call a non-assertion model, where First Nations agree to assert the Section 35 rights that are within the treaty and not assert rights that aren't captured within the treaty. But having said that, we have the ability to add those in over time, as I mentioned previously, as rights are proven. So treaties incorporate not just lands and resources, it's also self-government, it's jurisdictions, it's shared decision-making, it's involvement in natural resources, and there's a stronger fiscal relationship between the 3 parties than was previously. So these are living agreements. They're not final agreements as they were previously. There's something that can grow over time. For Comox in particular, as I said previously, we have been in these negotiations for 28 years, which is a heck of a long time. We signed the agreement in principle in 2012, which identified kind of the basic land cash component and defined the rights. In 2019, we signed an agreement to revitalize these negotiations, to really push forward to try and get them done in 2 years. Unfortunately, COVID put a bit of a stopper on that one, so it did slow us down a bit in some regards. So over the summer, we're going to continue to negotiate. And as I mentioned, we are planning to do a closing offer to Comox in the fall. And we're looking at doing what we call a chief negotiators understanding. So basically the whole agreement is pretty much done at that point. We have all the lands identified, all outstanding issues within the treaty have been resolved, all the appendices are done, any side agreements, because there can be up to 10 side agreements that live outside of the treaty that need to be ready for these chief negotiators understanding. At that point, we are able to initial the treaty, and then each party ratifies it. And Comox will be the first, which will include a vote. It will take a vote to its members. If they ratify, then BC then ratifies and Canada ratifies. So this is just a bit of a schematic, as I mentioned. So the offer in the fall, hope to come to a chief negotiators understanding in the spring of 2023. Initial in the summer of next year. Comox will then spend probably 6 months to 8 months through the ratification process, and then we follow, and Canada follows, and it comes into effect and it's implemented. So it takes a while to get through all of that. And then to get to the actual implementation stage, we are expecting probably 2026. And even that is quite ambitious because there's a lot of very technical land work that needs to happen in the next few years to make that all come to effect. Comox territory actually spans all the way up to the Sayward Valley down to close to Nanuus, but their core areas are the Comox Valley and the Sayward Valley. So at the agreement of principle stage, which I mentioned was signed 10 years ago, these were the lands that were identified in the Sayward Valley. So the reserve would become part of the treaty settlement land, and that parcel just adjacent to it, the orange one, along with the Salmon River parcel that's further down. Most of the lands are focused in the Comox Valley. Comox has 3 reserves in this area, one in Goose Spit, one in the town of Comox, and one in the city of Courtenay. So the pink parcel down there that you can see is something we call Sage Hills, which the province bought. It was a bank foreclosure, and the province bought it with Comox's agreement that they would accept it when it was offered as treaty settlement land. The orange parcels are the ones that were offered at the agreement of principle stage, and when they're slashed with green, it means they have agreed that those would remain public lands so that people could continue to access them. And as I had mentioned earlier too, very different in this neck of the woods, whereas in the province, 90% of the land is Crown land and 10% is private. In the Comox Valley, it's almost reversed. It's 86% is private and 14% is Crown. So in other treaties, we've taken the approach where all land is public unless the First Nation deems it private because it's incompatible with public access. We flipped it here. All their lands are private, except for ones we very specifically identify as public access lands, and those are the ones that are identified with the hash. So when the treaty lands become under Comox ownership, they will have lawmaking authority over all of the aspects of lands in terms of zoning, development of those lands. And as I mentioned previously, they will be considered private versus public. The treaty will also include self-government provisions, and it recognizes the right for self-government and making laws, but Comox isn't obligated to immediately start exercising their authorities in those lawmaking areas. They can draw them down when they see fit, so it's discretionary. But all these laws, federal, provincial, and Comox laws, all apply at the same time, so it's a concurrent law model. So if Comox does not choose to draw down a lawmaking authority, federal provincial law is still there. So there's no vacuum of no laws. These are some of the areas that Comox will have lawmaking authority. So I mentioned lands and resources, adoption, child protection, marriage, culture and heritage, education, post-secondary. So it's quite a large menu of different lawmaking authorities that Comox can draw down. And we are now in the process of now reaching out to anyone who has an interest on those lands currently that are Crown lands or might have a land adjacent to the parcels we're under consideration. So we mean doing public outreach. We are going to be doing open houses. We'll be hosting an open house in September 17th, I believe, in Sayward at the Kelsey Center to get feedback from people. Prior to the offer, we want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to provide feedback and let us know what their interests are. So expect letters and emails, and we have a website launch too. So we'll be providing that out. I'll provide this presentation to your CAO's post on your website with our contact information so people could contact us. We anticipate that these are some of the things that people will ask about. So basically public access to public lands for foraging and recreation, their private property access, heritage sites, culture and arts, wildlife management, taxation, what self-determination, and how people can actually be involved in reconciliation. So in summary, as I mentioned, we are engaging with the public May to September, and I know that the summer is not always the best time to engage with the public, but we're hoping that the open houses in September will allow as many people as possible to provide information along with the website. We are planning to do the closing offer in 2023, and the closing offer is the land and cash component, the final land and cash. Initially in 2023, ratification of next year and a half after that, and then hopefully have the treaty come into effect in 2026, which will take us to 32 years of negotiating, the ultra marathon of reconciliation. As I said, this will be up. I'll provide this to the village so that they can put it on their website so people can contact us if they would like more information. And I'll just end with some quotes. Reconciliation is not just words, reconciliation is action. Reconciliation is a societal imperative requiring awareness, understanding, and participation from everyone. And that's my presentation. And I thank you for having us here to, present this and allow for some input from everyone.
Well, thank you very much for presenting to our council and taking the time, especially on the split sections that we had tonight. Thank you, and thank you to Comox First Nations. Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Petition and delegations, we have Stephen Watson, or is it Stefan? Stephen. Stakeholder Engagement Advisor for BC Hydro.
Thank you very much, Mayor Baker. It's great to be here. I think I was last here in 2017 talking about the Salmon River diversion decommissioning and so forth, but I'm here to talk about the Campbell River hydroelectric system, how we operate it, mainly the dam safety upgrade projects we have proposed. I know a number of people in Sayward obviously go to Campbell River servicing and other needs back and forth, so it's important that we have ongoing downstream public safety. So this is what this presentation is about. And also there'll be some jobs and subcontractor opportunities coming out of these projects. So, can go to the next slide. So yeah, just a little bit about the system, some of the facilities we've actually removed in terms from an environmental and social benefits of why we did that. A brief overview of the John Hart Generating Station replacement project and how that set the stage now for these 3 dam safety upgrades for each of the 3 dams on the system. So next slide. So this is the hydroelectric system. Top on the left there, we have Strathcona Dam that holds back water on Upper Campbell Reservoir, Buddha Lake, and that's about 80% of the water storage on the Campbell River system. Below that is on the right there is Lador Dam, concrete dam holding back water on Lower Campbell Reservoir, McIver Lake, and then downstream of that is the John Hart Dam, where water just passes into the ocean downstream. So we have 3 dams, 3 generating stations on the system. We also have a diversion on the Quinte River, where we can divert water into that system there. But the Heber River on the very top of the map was removed, and of course, where the Lador picture is, where it used to be the Salmon River diversion, that's gone now too. So next slide. So BC Hydro has a water use plan. We don't just pull levers and generate as we like. We do have a water use plan with the control of water rights on how we target river flows and target reservoir elevations. On the graph there, not to get busy, but we want to stay within the bold dotted lines, which we kind of are. We're just near the edge of it, but with the delayed snow melts, we look to have pretty good reservoir operations, which is good for recreation and so forth. Downstream, we also have the fish, or the below picture is the Fish and Wildlife Compensation Program, and we have restoration projects for fish and wildlife, and this is the case of gravel placement for salmon in the Campbell River. Next slide. So in terms of our capital projects, this was done in 2012 and actually was a result of the Campbell River Water Use Plan. The facility was aged, it was built in late 50s. Part of it was in the Strathcona Provincial Park. The Mochop-Muchalot First Nation didn't like water intended for the west coast of the island diverted to the east coast, so we decided to remove it. So next slide. So this is just removing it in the summer of 2012, diverting the river around the facility. You can see the dam in the middle. Next slide. And that's what it looked like. So that was 10 years ago. Time flies. And so that area has been filled in nicely with vegetation. Next slide. So now the Salmon River, closer to home here, that was also built in the late 1950s. But over time, we had more salmon moving upstream. Particularly with steelhead and particularly coho, but also chinook. And because of the age of the facility, we tried fish ladders and different methods, but it just made sense to remove it. So we went through that decommissioning process in 2017. Next slide. And that's just a shot of it being removed, diverting the river around the facility to remove the facility. Next slide. Can't really see it too much, but that's just the dam on the insert on the top left, the same view with the dam gone. Next slide. Kind of same vantage. Next slide. And another view. So, you know, we didn't really interfere much with the Salmon River. When it was high flows, we didn't divert water from this system because we had enough water in the Campbell River system. But anyway, the facility has been a significant benefit with the excess of 40 kilometers of upstream fish habitat now to those salmon. Next slide. So just briefly, this is the construction here was done in 2014 to 2020. The John Hart Generating Station Replacement Project, replacement facility from the 1940s. It was the wood stave penstocks and the powerhouse that would withstand even a low to moderate earthquake. We had the powerhouse that was very old, and 95% of the river flow comes to the powerhouse. If you had flowing eruptions, that would impact salmon, and it's so-called salmon capital of the world, right? So it was a $1 billion project, and it was 10% under budget. We had no lost time accidents, even though we peaked about 500 people working at the site at one time, and no significant environmental incidents and so forth. So it was a very positive project. But people call it the John Hart Dam project. Just easy, but it was actually a powerhouse replacement project. So now we're coming out with a John Hart Dam project. So like, wait a minute, didn't you just do that? Anyway, next slide. So this is just the underground elements of it, underground powerhouse, the tunnels in the top left, and then the water bypass facility that maintains river flows downstream for fish habitat should the units go offline. So it's a much better facility. It's been working great. Next slide. So this is we've been working with the Strathcona Regional District and the CD Campbell River. This shows the dam, Strathcona Dam is in the far left, moving through the system, and the CD Campbell River is in the far right. So this is a major earthquake could put the Strathcona and John Hart dams at risk. And this map shows the potential where the water would go and how deep it would be and the water arrival times. So obviously it can move downstream, but it also branches off through Loveland Bay to Mohan Creek. And that's just an awareness where we developed, if it knocks you down, go to high ground. And it's only a major earthquake that could put the dams at risk, but it's an interim risk until we undertake these capital projects. So this is about ongoing downstream public safety. Next slide. John Hart Dam, built in the 40s and mostly earthfill, concrete sections. And next slide. So this one here, the green area is like bird's eye view looking down at the dam. We're adding upstream and downstream berms to widen the dam so it can withstand that shaking. We're also replacing the spillway gates in the hoist system, backup power supply, additional water seepage barrier, anchoring the concrete dam to the bedrock below. So it is our expectation that once this work started and completed, it will be able to withstand a major earthquake. Next slide. So we've been consulting with First Nations, engaging the community since 2014, and we're all gearing towards construction starting in summer of next year. And we're looking at about 100 people per year working for about 6 years. So it'll be a good opportunity for employment opportunities in the Campbell River and wider area. Next slide. So this is upstream at the Lador Dam on top right, spilling water, and then there's also an underground tunnel that carries water to the powerhouse there on the bottom. Next slide. So this one here, this is a concrete dam found in bedrock. It's in good shape, but we do need to replace the spillway gates. So the hoist system and other protection works will be replaced. The dam itself is fine. So this work is about a year or two out. We're looking through the BC Utilities Commission applications to our regulator for BC Hydro procurement, and we're looking to start work there in 2024. Next slide. This is just another advantage of the dam, and Lower Campbell Reservoir is in the background there. Next slide. So, I mean, basically you want the dams to withstand that earthquake and then be able to continue to release water downstream through all 3 dams in a controlled manner. So this is the largest dam on Vancouver Island, 53 meters tall, half a kilometer long. We have the intake tower on the far right, taking water to the powerhouse down below, and the spillway gates are on the left there. Next slide. And so we're looking here to excavate a deep excavated channel on the right bank of the dam to go around the spillway gates. Because the spillway gates are quite high up in the reservoir, they're used for flood risk management. We can't actually lower the reservoir. And so this one will allow us to lower the reservoir after a major earthquake. And so that's why these spillway gates downstream are very important to be able to continue to pass that water downstream. Next slide. So this shows that excavated channel. It's about 330 meters long, about 30 meters deep, and basically we'll move in the spillway gates into this low level outlet channel. And it'll also give us a better water management abilities in dry years to continue to manage water downstream. Next slide. This is a free campground. We did have a campground at Strathcona Dam, but we moved it upstream given its location to the Strathcona Dam, as well as that area will be used as a laydown area for this project, which will start around 2025. But this is for Campbell Reservoir Campground. There's 21 sites, free camping, 2-week max stay. There's no advance booking. And it opened February of last year, and it's been great. So great views of the watershed. So we're up that way. Check it out. Next slide. So yeah, this is the last one. We have majorprojects.ca. This is a web portal that's geared towards job seekers and suppliers who are interested in the project, whether you want to work on it, or also we have videos and news items so people can follow along the evolution of the project just for broader awareness and encourage people who contact you or interested in you on the project. This is a really good site to refer them to. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I apologize for the wait,
Hey, no worries.
but thank you for coming out. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Tinsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question. When you talked about earthquake, ability to withstand it, is there a certain scale of earthquake they look at there, or is it?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So that was a hard thing that we had to, it's hard to compare it to magnitude because we look at ground motions. It's a different consideration. But we spent 6 years and $10 million to get a bunch of scientists to agree on a model, which in itself was a feat, to essentially measure what a Cascadia subduction zone release would equate to. So that earthquake happens about every 500 years, every 300 to 800 years, but every 500 years. And the last event was in January 1700. So we're kind of in that window now. And so through that, they measured ground motions and basically an earthquake that lasts about 3 minutes, kind of like a magnitude 9 kind of event. So it's potentially one of the largest earthquake events in North America. So that's a distance away, but still a significant impact to Cam River, of course, across Vancouver Island. And so we're looking to upgrade these facilities so they can withstand that type of ground shaking. And so that's why with that information, we can then design these facilities to withstand that.
Thank you.
Anyone else from council have any questions? No?
No, thanks.
Again, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you. Take care. Next, we have, what's his name? Frank Morgan, Chief Sayward Volunteer Fire Department. Chief, sorry to keep you waiting.
Mr. Mayor, Council, CAO, and councilors. Hi, Sue.
Hi,
Just
Frank.
wanted to touch base with everybody. As you all know, I think you're all pretty familiar with me, who I am and where I'm from. I have told Jason I will be communicating with you folks quite regularly, also with Director Wally, running pretty much the same stuff to both parties. I believe you have the response list from the last one. That was previous to my tenure, but that's the way things have been going. Although it is a little quieter lately, thank goodness. Just wanted to let you know some of the things that I'm working on personally, as I may have mentioned to some of you. I'm working on redoing the constitution for the fire department as the last known copy of it was updated in 1993. So I'm trying to update it and bring it into line with the village bylaw that enacted the fire department. And also to work on our standard operating guidelines, which were dated back from 1995. Obviously, things have changed a little since then, so we're trying to bring everything up to speed. In some of the conversations, you're all well aware of Hall 2 and some of the challenges out there. I've had conversations with Director Wally and Sean Koopman about the building. They will be putting some money into the building. We've got some plans for it. Hopefully we'll make it a little bit bigger to house some of the bigger units and at some point a water tender, which is all on our horizon somewhere, but we can't put the cart before the horse. So we got to have a home for it first before we try to achieve that one. The department is kind of struggling with membership. We're at the 60, we have 17 members on paper. One is just off on leave of absence for medical leave. He's had some stomach issues for quite a while now. We have one new member that has started, and hopefully in the next week or two, we have another young lady that's going to join us. So that is all helping. I'm sure you've seen our posts on around Sayward and whatnot, trying to get people's attention and trying to get people out. I was talking with Jason earlier today of maybe trying some other avenues, possibly maybe a junior program, getting some younger people in, and also maybe looking at taking on some members that can't be full members, but could do the department a lot of service in driving a truck to the scene and operating the pump or something like that, but not being fully active members. It's not booked yet, but we are going to be holding an air brake course for our members. There's approximately 6 at the moment, probably more with these 2 new recruits that we would like to see get their air ticket so that we can have more people available to drive the air brake vehicles, being the 2 in Hall 1. As for training, we're working on transitioning back into the playbook, which is the official thing that we're supposed to gauge our training through and stuff. Right now, we're just been doing some freelance training of our own and stuff. We're just trying to get all our ducks in a row with getting the playbook up and running. It is going to be a challenge because you don't always get the same members out to every practice. So there's going to be a lot of gaps for a lot of people over time, but it's just one of the challenges that we'll have to work with. So another thing I wanted to bring up that I'm not sure all of council is aware of, I'm hoping you are, but that your fire department is what we call an exterior attack only fire department. So just remember, if we have a building with people trapped inside, we cannot go in. And our training doesn't allow it at this point. Hopefully someday the department will be big enough that we could go to an interior attack department, but as of right now and for our insurance purposes and stuff, that's what we are considered as. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Tesley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you talked about potentially maybe in the future moving to being able to do interior, what kind of numbers there is that kind of looking at? Is it a department size or a community size or?
It's kind of both in a way. I would like to see the numbers. I'd like to see at least 25 members. That way, as much as I hate to admit this, we'll probably have about 12 that are consistent. And to be an interior attack department, you have to have crews available, crews that can go in and then have backup crews. And right now the staffing wouldn't allow anything like that. And our training isn't there yet. So But we would have to get the numbers up quite a bit higher. That is my goal, is to get the numbers up higher so that the same 6 or 7 people that are doing pretty much everything now are supplemented with a few more bodies. But it's a challenge. Every fire department goes through that, but. Any other questions?
Yes, I've got one, Frank. You mentioned bringing on perhaps some younger members and training them. Is that very near in the future?
Pardon me, Norm?
Is that very near in the future, having some younger members?
Junior program.
We're just in the process, the constitution would have to be changed.
Oh, okay.
And I'm in the process of updating it and making some changes and stuff. I haven't even brought it to the membership yet. I've just been kind of bouncing it off some of you people and stuff, just to see what the thoughts are. The other thing that comes into play, especially with, say for somebody that's partially disabled type of thing that wanted to come and could be a driver and a pump operator or something like that, is insurance liability, whether we could cover them and stuff like that. So that all has to be looked at, but I think it's doable. I'm hoping it's doable because we've been racking our heads we've tried to be nice. We've tried to hit the message home with some of our advertising to get members and stuff. And it's awakened a few people, but I don't want to see something terrible happen for that to be the catalyst of bringing more people in.
I understand. When I was in high school, they had a junior fire department in Merritt. And that ran for quite a few years. I don't know if it's still going or not,
Yeah.
but
As far as I know, the department has never done it before. So it would be a bit of a challenge, because they would practice with us and stuff, and hopefully to bring them up to speed, we'd have to do some other extra practices with them and stuff. And I don't think liability wise, until they were the age of majority, that we could kind of kick them free into the full department. But that being said, they could help in non-dangerous positions, like if we're at a scene, they could bring equipment to us and stuff like that.
pulling hose.
Pulling hose, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Washing trucks, yes.
Does anybody else from council have any questions for the chief? I'd like to say congratulations to the chief for becoming chief.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Councillor Paulson, you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the number of calls that the members applied or went to in 120 days, 35 calls, which is just about pretty record to get that many people out that many times in a month. So I'd just like to pass on my grateful thanks to the fire department that is so dependable. And thanks for all the good work that you're putting forward too, Frank.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, we try it. It is a gamble. Anytime the pager goes off, you don't know who you're gonna get or how many you're gonna get. So you have to be kind of prepared to do what you can with what you've got. So hopefully, like I say, we can work on the numbers, and that's our major stumbling block for a lot of things, but we'll just keep pushing forward.
Thanks.
Great, perfect. Thank you very much, Chief. Thanks for coming in tonight. Take care. Okay, correspondence. I'm sorry. Sorry, CAO.
Sorry, you might, I think we need to go back and hit 0.5 minutes of previous meetings.
Oh, did I miss that?
Yeah, and
That was
just
intentional.
one comment on that as well. We did discover an error in the special council meeting
I lost it.
minutes. So it does say that started at 1800. So we just like to make that correction to 1900. And then council approved that as amended.
Okay, so meeting that council, no, we're talking about the minutes from the previous meeting. Recommended resolution that the minutes of the regular council meeting held on May 17th be adopted as amended. That one's okay. Let's go down to the bottom one.
You can do each one separately.
Do each one. This is what.
Okay. So the first one, we already said, motion, please. Second,
I'll second that.
discussion. All in favor? Carried. That the minutes of the committee of the whole, the COW meeting that was held on the 31st of May, 2022 be adopted. Do I have a motion, please? Second,
I'll second that.
discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And that the minutes of the special council meeting that was held on June 7th, 2022 with amendment be adopted as amended. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second,
I'll second it.
discussion. Thank you. Discussion? Nope. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion carried. Okey doke. Correspondence from ADE. Be accepted. Does anybody want any correspondence pulled? No. So we accept a resolution to
Oh,
accept correspondence from A through E.
So
I'm sorry, Councillor
I-
Paulson.
Yes, I did have some questions about the letter E from Audrey Ordano for the Sayward Elementary School and the request to use the Kelsey Center. I just, in their letter, it wasn't clear that there was going to be the people there serving the liquor should have to have serve it right. And whether there's going to be bouncers at the door so that the exit doors in the gym, if they're left open, then people can come and go freely and take alcohol outside. And I know just because we did the dance several years ago, and these are things that need to be considered. So we'd need clarification from them.
CEO, he has clarification for you.
Through Chair, Councillor Paulson, thank you very much. Yeah, those stipulations are laid out on any special occasion license. So they must, anybody who's serving beverages must have serving it right, and they must have proper supervision of the space in order to grant, in order to facilitate the requirements of that permit. So that would be clearly laid out there. And then the onus of the responsibility would be on the applicant, which of course would be the PAC.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Paulson?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion. We have a first. We have a motion. Second,
I'll second it.
the motion was accepting the correspondence from A to E.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. Okay. Yes, sorry. Somebody's paying attention. No, don't apologize. That's great. Sayward Futures has a request on A. For item C, Michelle Bridge sent a letter requesting, for example, the use of the park, power cords, so on and so forth. I'm assuming that everybody has read that. Does everybody agree to the request? Councillor Paulson, you would be excused from that, I would assume?
I'm not voting.
Okay. So Councillor Kirschner, Councillor Tinsley, you're okay with the request? Okay, so do we need a resolution on that? Not really, probably. Do we have a resolution for Sayward Futures for their request for Canada Day 2022? Do I have a motion, please? Second.
I'll second that.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, carried. Okay, the second request is from Savored Futures again. No, because we're not doing Savored Futures Society. There's really no request there, is there? No. So we go into the PAC. That we already approved, so that's it. Okay, correspondence is approved and done. Council reports. None. Mayor or reports for committees. None. Mayor's report. None. Staff reports. Annual report for the SOFI 2022. That the 2021 annual report and statement of financial information and staff report be received for information and discussion, and that the 2021 annual report be made available for public viewing for a minimum of 14 days, beginning on June 15th, tomorrow, ending on June 28th. And that finally, that council approves the 2021 statement of financial information and report. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second. Discussion? Councillor Paulson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have on page 22. My question,
22.
yeah, page 22, under discussion for the annual report, it says,
Okay.
The report will be returned to council with any public comments at the July 19th meeting and council meeting for final approval. So I wasn't clear about whether we were voting on finally that council approves the 2021 statement of financial information report. That won't be done until
That's
July 19th.
correct. I mean, it's a different thing. The Sophie's approved now, and then the annual report is done on July 19th. So this is just the Sophie report.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. All in favor? Opposed? None, carried. Appointment of officer bylaw. CAO, do you want to give some clarification to that, please? You're going to refer to the CFO? There's really nothing to clarify. Everybody's good on that? Okay. So cancel that. Recommended resolution that council receives the appointment of officer bylaw report for information and discussion, and that council directs staff to prepare a new appointment of officer bylaw for the July 19th council meeting. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move
Second.
that.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. Permissive tax exemption. The recommended resolution is that the permissive tax exemption for 2022 staff report be received for information and discussion, and that staff be directed to advertise the tax exemption process as outlined in the report. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None. Motion is carried. Okay, recommended resolution that council receive the water conservation plan staff report for review and discussion, and that council agrees with the recommendation of section 5.1 next steps of the water conservation plan and draft by Urban Systems, and work towards the steps as a part of overall water conservation strategy subject to grant funding and resources. Do I have a motion, please? Second, thank you. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Emergency Service, Public Works, Recreation Department reports. Then bylaws, election and asset voting bylaw 486/2022. Recommended resolution that the election assent voting. Why did I say asset? Sorry, assent voting for bylaw 486/2022 be given fourth and final reading. Do I have a motion, please?
Oh.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Hearing none, carried. Fees and charges. Amendment bylaw number 487. Schedules A, B, C, G, H, K under 487/2022 be given first, second, and third reading. Do I have a motion, please? Second,
I'll second that.
discussion.
I just have one,
All in fa-
I just
Go
have
ahead,
one.
Councillor Paulson.
Thank you. Under the fees and charges, Schedule G on page 129, it lists ALR application. And does this just refers to the village? And so I was curious whether there was ALR land within the village limits, or is this because SRD has done the put this together? So
No, we
Is
have
that-
farmland within the village boundaries. Yes, we do have land within the boundaries.
do we? Okay,
There's a few properties. We do. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Opposed? All in favor? Carried. New business. None. Question period. Do we have anybody? Nope. Okay. So we're going to go to adjournment of this regular meeting. Oh. And we have to do a resolution to prepare in camera before we close this particular meeting that we are currently presiding and prepare to go in camera. So that in accordance with section 92 of the community charter, this council meeting would be closed to the public at that time in order that council may give consideration to matters in accordance with section 91C, labor relations and other employee relations. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second,
Second.
thank you. Discussion? Opposed? All in favor? This meeting's adjourned.